When you hear the phrase concentration camps, which country comes to mind first? And more importantly, were you ever told that Britain used them decades earlier? That question alone changes how this story feels. Before we go further, tell me where you're watching from right now and what time it is where you are. Type it in the comments. It's always striking to see how far these forgotten stories travel. And if you believe history should be shared, not softened, take a moment to share this video with someone who trusts the official version of the past. Welcome to Vintage World. At the start of the 20th century, Britain stood at the height of its power. Its empire spanned continents. Its military reputation was unmatched. Yet, during the Boer War in South Africa, between 1899 and 1902, Britain made a decision that would quietly reshape modern warfare. It chose to imprison civilians, not enemy soldiers, but women, children, and the elderly. This is the story of how concentration camps became a tool of empire long before most people think they existed. The war began as a conflict between the British Empire and two small Boer republics. At first, it followed the familiar rules of warfare. Then the Boers changed tactics. They abandoned open battles and turned to guerrilla warfare. Small units attacked quickly and vanished into the countryside. British commanders grew frustrated. They could not force a decisive victory, so the strategy shifted. Instead of hunting fighters, the British targeted civilian life itself. Farms were burned, crops destroyed, livestock killed, entire communities were erased from the land. The goal was simple: break the resistance by breaking the families that supported it, and then came the camps. Civilians were rounded up and transported to enclosed compounds under British control. They were officially described as refugee camps, but there was no choice involved. By the end of the war, more than 100 camps operated across South Africa. Tens of thousands of people were confined inside them. Shelter was inadequate, food was insufficient, medical care was minimal, disease spread rapidly, measles, typhoid, dysentery. Children suffered the most. More than 20,000 Boer civilians died in these camps. Most of them were under 16 years old. Black Africans were also interned in separate camps. Their deaths were poorly recorded and often ignored, but historians believe the toll was severe. Here's the question that should stop you for a moment. How does a global empire justify imprisoning children in the name of victory? And why is this rarely mentioned when British history is taught? Reports from the camps eventually reached Britain. At first, officials dismissed them. Then the evidence became overwhelming. Emily Hobhouse, a British humanitarian, visited the camps and documented what she saw. Her reports described hunger, neglect, and unnecessary death. Public pressure grew. Conditions improved slightly, but only after immense damage had already been done. The war ended in 1902. Britain won, but the cost was more than military. Families were destroyed, communities were broken, trust in British rule collapsed, and a dangerous precedent was set. Civilian internment became an accepted strategy of war. This history is uncomfortable because it disrupts a simple narrative. It reminds us that empires do not only build railways and institutions. They also create suffering when power feels threatened. The concentration camps of the Boer War were not created by accident. They were the result of deliberate choices. And choices always leave consequences. So let me ask you one final question. Should history remember empires for their achievements alone, or for the human cost behind them? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters here. If you're watching Vintage World and you value honest history, make sure you're subscribed. And if this story surprised you, share it with a friend or family member. Because the past only stays hidden when no one passes it on. Thank you for watching Vintage World.